What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Now as Survivor Series draws near, fans are wondering what to expect at the 30-year anniversary of The Undertaker's WWE debut. Join us now as we look at the wildest news and rumours you need to know about the upcoming Survivor Series pay-per-view. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 1. Clash at the Titans. Undoubtedly the biggest news going into Survivor Series is Drew McIntyre winning the WWE Championship, which means that he, not Randy Orton, will face Roman Reigns in an Untitled Interbrand match. Some fans are surprised that the WWE is pulling the trigger on this huge match before WrestleMania 37. And now, although they're hoping to run Rock vs Roman Reigns at 2021 Showcase of the Immortals, it's difficult to lock The Rock into a match, and the WWE seems to be setting the stage for an epic McIntyre vs Reigns series, with the two throwing down at Mania in the event that The Rock can't work. What it means for Sunday's match should be interesting, as fans wonder who, if anyone, will count the lights. Number 2. A spoiler on another top star to pay tribute to The Undertaker. The WWE has built up The Undertaker's Survivor Series final farewell quite nicely, with a number of WWE superstars already scheduled to show up and honour the Phenom's 30 years in the WWE. So far, fans have heard a number of former WWE superstars including Kane, Savio Vega and The Godfather. But now PW Insider's Mike Johnson is reporting that there's one big name planned to show up. WWE Hall of Famer and Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle is scheduled to be in attendance at the Survivor Series this Sunday. According to Johnson, not everyone who's scheduled to appear may show up on camera. Whether any of them will appear on camera remains to be seen. It's entirely possible that they're being brought in to film WWE Network content or additional material related to The Undertaker that will be released down the line. I don't be surprised to see other guests show up, given The Undertaker's impact on so many careers, not only in wrestling, but in sports entertainment. As in case you missed it, boxing great Tyson Fury recently aired a video paying respect to The Undertaker on Twitter, dressing up in Taker's trademark leather outfit and hat with his special edition belt. Now, the WWE may incorporate a number of video tributes during Survivor Series from individuals honouring The Undertaker's 30 thrilling years in the WWE. It's hard to imagine The Undertaker being honoured without appearances by Steve Austin, The Rock, Mick Foley, Triple H, Shawn Michaels or even Vince McMahon. Who would you like to see show up to pay tribute to The Undertaker? Number 3 is Dana Brooke injured. Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose were both attacked on the 16th November Raw, leading to Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans taking their spot on the Raw Women's Survivor Series team. Naturally, there's speculation whether either or both women are actually legitimately injured. Otherwise, how to explain the new tag team's removal? Now, you may recall that Mandy Rose was legitimately injured on last week's edition of Raw when Nia Jax threw her out of the ring and Rose landed awkwardly on her shoulder. She is actually legitimately injured, but as for Dana, she wasn't injured but is merely being written off, likely in order to continue the storyline involving the team of Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce. Even though Brooke was seen at a recent boxing event disregarding safe social distancing, there's no evidence that she was exposed to COVID, and if so, it's unlikely she would have appeared on Raw. Number 4. A Sami Squash. A current Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn and United States Champion Bobby Lashley are no strangers to each other, having feuded in 2018, and now the two find themselves fighting again, this time in one of Survivor Series Interbrand matchups. Now, while this could be an interesting battle of how the ever-crafty Zayn tries to outplay Lashley's power, Dave Meltzer is reporting that the match may very well be a lopsided encounter. Even though Sami Zayn is much better than Bobby Lashley, they're going to work it as a squash. Do you think it should be a squash, or should it be a competitive match? Let us know in the comments down below. Number 5. Will they, or won't they? One of the biggest questions for The Undertaker's final farewell is whether or not the WWE will treat it as any other celebration, i.e. having someone show up to disrupt the event and set things up for a future match. Arguably, the biggest possibility is for The Fiend to show up and lay out The Undertaker, setting up a match at WrestleMania 37. And yeah, we know we recently reported on the Wrestling Ramblings of a potential Edge and Beth Phoenix versus The Fiend and Alexa Bliss match, but as fans know, The Undertaker has already said he'll come out of retirement if Vince McMahon needs him, even though Taker himself has also said in interviews that his body is spent when it comes to working any more matches. They could also go down the route of having someone such as Edge fighting on The Undertaker's behalf, but it wouldn't make sense for The Undertaker to let anyone but himself fight for revenge. If the WWE runs the final farewell without any major disruptions, it'll be a rarity in wrestling, a celebration where no one was beat down or put through a table, notwithstanding an appearance by Lana, which could change that. Number 6. Retribution Strikes. The WWE has been spending time rebuilding Retribution after a terrible start for Raw's Rogue faction. Mustafa Ali and his masked menaces scored the first win on the 9th November Raw, as well as the 16th November episode for their second win. In addition to the wins, Retribution appeared on Twitter voicing their grievances with the WWE, which is their whole gimmick. While it's clear that they're starting to push the group again, will they strike at Survivor Series? It would be a good place to get some exposure, but the WWE doesn't seem to be pushing Retribution as much of a threat. Well, at least not yet. You may recall early talk about the group had them fighting as their own unit at Survivor Series, either battling Raw and SmackDown or working a match against the Hurt Business. In light of how Retribution stumbled from the start, the WWE should pace their push and keep them off Survivor Series unless they can concoct a clever storyline. Number 7. Twists and Turns. Expect some twists and turns at Survivor Series, whether it's surprise appearances or wrestlers turning heel, or indeed babyface. In spite of there being no titles on the line at Survivor Series, the event is often used to build up future storylines, often with the conflict between teammates leading to feuds after the pay-per-view. For example, last year's pay-per-view saw King Corbin and Roman Reigns begin a feud after Corbin objected to what he saw as Reigns not following his instructions on Team SmackDown. Now with the WWE teasing dissension on the Raw team, fans wonder who might feud. AJ Styles or Matt Riddle, Sheamus and Braun Strowman? There are many possibilities, and we can think of worse reasons to explain why two wrestlers are fighting than a battle over bruised egos. As for turns, the WWE continues to hint that the Street Profits are growing tired of being called the poor man's version of the New Day, which makes it likely we'll see Ford and Dawkins turning heel. Whether or not this leads to a Street Profits victory is immaterial, as the two teams won't be facing each other for some time to come. However, it would change the tag team landscape on SmackDown, which has a shortage of tag teams to begin with, but far too few babyface teams. Another individual to watch is AJ Styles' associate, who fans learned is called Olmos. The 7'3" henchman's real name is Jordan Omabeyon and hails from Nigeria. The WWE seems to be teasing that Styles, like everyone else he surrounds himself with, is treating Olmos as an afterthought. He didn't even know the big man spoke English until the recent Raw, which means his arrogance is sure to catch up with him. Will Olmos turn on Styles at Survivor Series? Well, it's difficult to tell since the WWE loves to hotshot angles, and there's no conclusive word on whether or not Olmos has any significant ring skills. Although it has been said that WWE management aren't impressed with them, hence why he's a bodyguard. Keep an eye on him though, as the WWE appears to be fast-tracking him for stepping into the ring regardless of his experience and skills. At 7'3", Vince McMahon probably figures he can get by just on size. Number 8. Debuts or returns. Pay-per-views are often used to feature the debut of new superstars or the return of superstars who have been absent from the company for some time. Although Edge's name comes to mind, there's no reason for him to show up, as Randy Orton isn't wrestling at Survivor Series unless he interferes in the Drew vs Roman match. Fans could see a debut by someone like Tessa Blanchard. The WWE seems focused on its final farewell for The Undertaker and the interbrand competitions. If the WWE is going to debut wrestlers or feature returns, it's likely going to happen on Raw or SmackDown. Number 9. How much Survivor Series to expect? Setting aside that it's been decades since the Survivor Series aired on America's Thanksgiving holiday, the show still takes place around the time people overindulge in turkey, yams, and pumpkin pie. Having said that, will the WWE stuff its fans with hours of wrestling for Survivor Series, or will they stick to their current pattern of running roughly 3-hour shows? Right now, there are only 6 matches scheduled for the pay-per-view, but that doesn't include The Undertaker's final farewell, and it's worth mentioning that the 2 elimination matches ran almost 30 minutes each last year. The WWE will probably be putting one of the matches on the pre-show, leaving a solid 3 hours of wrestling, segments and interviews. Unless the WWE decides to run exceptionally long matches, look for this show to end on time. And number 10, Goobledegooker returns. Last but not least, fans shouldn't rule out a special appearance by the Goobledegooker, who also debuted at 1990's Survivor Series. In case you never saw the segment or have repressed the memory, the WWF teased a big unveiling, actually a hatching at the pay-per-view, with the costume Goobledegooker showing up and fans booing him out of the building. Thankfully, he didn't stick around, But knowing Vince McMahon, will we see the costume character show up and take a few bumps just to indulge in Vince McMahon's strange sense of humor? But there you have it guys, the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know about the 2020 Survivor Series. Be sure to check back for our predictions for the show as well as our recap and analysis on Sunday. As always, leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.